into criminal conduct by competing media companies, working with groups like Logically and Crisp, working with legacy media companies, collaborating in an unprecedented way in order to go back to, for years and years, talk to people like, have you got a story about Russell Brand? What about that? Well, other people have bravely come forward. What if we shift that? What if we shift this a little bit? What if we tweak that? Now it goes from, instead of being a heel and a fool and greedy, and and in some aspects of the culture, a playboy, a womanizer, a gadabout, a player. It was reformed into, no, this guy's not like all those other famous womanizers that we know are out there, that sometimes have to put out injunctions, that sometimes have to pay lawyers a lot of money to keep stories quiet. No, you're in this different category here, all of a sudden, of the most appalling criminals known.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we have quite a serious subject to talk about. It's Russell Brand and the recent accusations against him. Unfortunately, those are SA allegations and RAPE allegations. To be honest, every time I hear that kind of story, allegations about some public person, it always makes me really sad, obviously, first of all, for the victims, alleged victims in this case, but also for the state of the justice systems in various countries. In this specific case, it's happening in the UK, about the media in general, how all these things are presented, about the people who are being accused in particular, why are they doing this? Did they do this? Why does this whole thing happen years after the act supposedly happened? It just raises a lot of questions for me, so that's what I would like to discuss with you today. And you guys, before we start the video, please go to the comment section and let me know, do you think Russell is guilty, not guilty? What's your stance on it? If you enjoy watching this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You're always welcome on my channel. Disclaimer, I am not a therapist. However, having spent 8 years in therapy, I've gained a deep understanding of psychological processes, and I like analyzing behaviors by looking beneath the surface. This video is not meant to diagnose and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Let's first take a look at what Russell Brand himself says about this situation.
I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, we're just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes.
By the way, I don't believe in that statute of limitations stuff. I think if someone committed a crime 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if a crime was committed, the person should be held accountable. Justice. I believe in justice. I believe in integrity. I believe in truth. Why? Because I believe in God. I believe that we're here to love one another.
It's interesting that he mentions the statute of limitations here. It's been a subject of a discussion, sort of, because some people say, yeah, if a person, like Russell says, if you committed a crime years ago, doesn't matter. It's still a crime and you should be, held accountable for it. But other people say that if it's been 25 years ago, 26 years ago, like in this case, mind you, one of the alleged victims says it happened in 1999. That's 26 years. So others say that, wait, you had 26 years to come forward with this case. So what happened? Why weren't you silent? And that's where other people will say, wait, but don't forget that victims don't always feel comfortable going forward with their case. Psychologically speaking, the victims may experience a traumatic response, learned helplessness, self-blame, fear of retaliation, stigma and social pressure, fawn response, and of course, cognitive dissonance, the mental stress of holding two conflicting beliefs, like he RAPE'd me versus he's someone I trusted, or I know what happened, other people say it didn't happen. So this potentially could explain why victims often don't come out with their stories until years later. But at the same time, we know cases of people coming out with their stories just for some financial gain years later, or because allegedly they were pressured by someone in politics or in the media, because the accused person is someone they're after at this point, and they find these people, find these victims, and like pay them to allegedly tell these stories and modify those stories to basically try to put someone in jail, that kind of thing. And this is interesting because Candace Owens actually is now investigating Harvey Weinstein's case, which is apparently going to be looked at all over again. And she dove deep into this case. Like, she read the court documents and she talks about it on her show. And it's very interesting because the things she read out loud from the court documents is something that nobody ever heard of, because the media never told us about it. And I remember back in the days when Harvey's case happened, people were just, it was easy. It was easy. He's allegedly a monster, and it's clear as day. He just did those things to those women and he ended up in jail, and that's all we know about it, right, at this point. But when she read the cases, there were plenty of emails with one of the victims, which allegedly proved that she was sort of in a relationship with him for 5 years. Years later, she accuses him of RAPE, but at the same time, there are emails of her calling him love, asking him to meet her mom, and he's doing favors for her, he's getting jobs for her. She's asking him to meet with her. Like, would you do that kind of thing with a person who did that to you, allegedly? You personally, I'm asking you, would you do that? Would you continue for years being involved with him in all those capacities? But this person RAPE'd you? Like, what's the explanation for it, really? And also, I feel conflicted about this stories when, like in Russell Brand's case, going back to him, his victims are saying these things. Let's take a look at them.
Grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to the side. I'm telling him to get off me, and he won't get off.
He grabbed me and got me on the bed. I was fully clothed and he was naked at this point, and he held me down and he was just aggressively trying to, me.
I was like, oh my God, he raped me.
So a BBC chauffeur-driven car picked you up at the age of 16 to take you to Russell Brand's house?
Yes.
Right.
He told me that his management had told him, his agent, not to be seen out and about.
His management had advised him not to be seen out and about with a 16-year-old?
Yeah, because they said it wasn't a good look for him and for his career.
His victims are saying basically that they were in hotel rooms with him, they were here and there with him. And I always wonder, in this kind of situations, how did you end up there? Like, were you dragged there by your hair? Like, how did you end up there? And what did you think was going to happen when you were going there? This is not victim blaming. This is a genuine question. When celebrities management sends a car after you to bring you to his hotel room, not like the restaurant in the lobby even, what do you think you're going to be doing there? Talking about, I don't know, politics, Hollywood? Why are you going there? So, but then one could say, okay, but maybe she was expecting that something intimate's going to happen, but he did something particularly bad and like assaulted her and put pressure on her, made her do something she didn't want to do. That is true. That I believe that could easily happen. And if it happened that way, then obviously the person who did that is guilty, because I'm guessing maybe they gave consent for something intimate, but not to that degree. So that's like difficult. And it's really interesting how 26 years later, they're gonna like defend the way they remember it in court. Like, I sometimes barely remember how things happened a year ago or a month ago and for regular things, but then something traumatic, usually if it's something traumatic, you vividly remember things, but how can one prove that actually happened the way they're describing? So it's basically he said, she said kind of thing. There's no real evidence, no forensic evidence to prove that kind of case, right? So that what kind of bothers me in these stories, these kinds of stories. And looking closely at Russel's past, because now he claims to be a changed man. He found Christ. He's a Christian now. He has a family now. He has kids and a wife, and he has a YouTube channel and a channel on Rumble where he talks about various subjects. And he basically sounds, I don't know what he claims he is, but he sounds like a conservative man. He always talks about his past very openly, how he was a drug addict, how he was a sex addict, how he openly loved this Hollywood lifestyle. And he does talk about it.
You have to move out of your chair and...
Catherine is welcome to
No,
see me.
she's not. No, don't do it. Trust me, don't do this.
You did say at the start of the year that you were considering attempting celibacy. Is that something that you have continued with?
What time do you finish work? If you're ever so confused, Fifi Box, pop yourself down on my knee and see if we can't get you pregnant. Fifi Box. Dan, dan, dan. Come on.
Oh my God, he's kissing me!
All right, Liz, goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's been really a wonderful experience. See you later, Liz.
Russell.
All right, take care. Russell.
I can undo your bra just like this.
And looking at these videos, it's interesting because, yes, we can see he's kind of forcing himself on women in these clips, right? But the first clip with the lady sitting on the lap, he didn't make her sit on her lap. Why did she do that? Why did she sit on his lap? It was her choice, right? In this particular video, we can see that. And it's all fun and games. It's laughter. And I remember those times, guys. And in those next videos, he is forcing himself on. Everybody's laughing because those were the days when people were laughing at this kind of stuff. This was considered cute and funny. I'm like old enough to remember those days and all those shows and how he was coming to those shows. He was this loud, charismatic person. He was, edgy. That was celebrated. And that's what he talks about today. All of his behavior back in the day was celebrated. Now, years later, the times change and everybody's suddenly looking at it differently, which is interesting. I find it interesting. Again, if he did something really terrible, okay, then sorry, you're being held accountable for your past doings, right? And if you're saying you're a changed man, it doesn't just erase other people's experiences with you. But at the same time, why now? And this question bothers me. Why now? Because again, we notice it happens to specific people, and I'm sure there are many more people in Hollywood and in politics in the US that, and I bet in the UK too, people who do terrible things. And we don't know about those terrible things. But then suddenly this person pops up on our screens in all the news and YouTube clips and all the podcasts people discuss this specific person. And that apparently there are tens and hundreds of allegations against this person. Why now? Why? What happened? What happened? As Wendy Williams would have said, And I'm guessing, and that's what I hear also people talk about, it's a lot of the times this specific person said something or did something, crossed paths with someone very important, and it just, they're hunting them down, basically. I don't have anything to back it up, really, in Russell Brand's case, but we can see that he's being very open about his feelings and thoughts on current affairs in the world. And if somebody didn't like what he said, who knows? That could be, one of the reasons why it's happening now. At the same time, it's important to mention that Russell Brand is showing signs of narcissistic behavior, right? And it's common for people with narcissistic tendencies to wear these masks, like, ooh, I'm this person now, and then, ooh, I'm this other person now, up to the point that they themselves can start believing it. But to be honest, and this is just my personal opinion, because I've seen Russell's show plenty of times and watched his videos, and it looks genuine to me. It looks like he just, did a 180 and turned his life around. And this happens to people. Are you the same person you were 20 years ago? Maybe it's not a 180, but you've evolved, right? You've changed. You've gone through experiences that shaped you and made you who you are today, right? And this happens to everybody. And in Russell Brand's case, it kind of is like night and day in a way. But I believe that can happen, especially if he battled addiction, he became religious, he changed his environment. That's the most important argument here. He's in a completely different environment. He took himself out of Hollywood and replanted himself in a different place, in a different environment, right? And I mean, good for him. But his past doings, I guess we'll just have to wait and see if more information from like the court hearings becomes public. That would be very interesting to hear. What are those victims actually saying? Talking about the victims that think they're victims, I'm not alleging anything about these specific victims. I'm just analyzing Russell's story to speak more generally about it. So let's take the people who kind of altered the story to convince the public and the court that this person RAPE'd them or essayed them. Some of those alleged victims can do it completely knowingly, fabricating stories, making it up, right, for financial gain or for, public image gain. But others can be experiencing some interesting psychological effects. Good old memory distortion can happen to anyone. You think things happen this way, but they actually happened another way, and this is your perception, and this is how you remember it, but it doesn't mean it's true. It happens with little things to us, and sometimes we remember things one way, another person remembers them another way. Yeah, it's a normal, common thing. False memories, for example, memories of things that never actually happened, that also is possible. This can be influenced by suggestion, emotional bias, or leading questions, because our brain is very complicated, and sometimes it fools us. And I can tell you, even from being in therapy, I can tell you how many times I was talking about my childhood and saying something, and then I'm like, wait, and I was saying to my therapist, this happened, it happened this way, and then I talk to my parents and they remember it completely differently, but that we can say, okay, that's perception. But then years later, I may be remembering the same event and I'm like, no, wait, this is not what happened. Oh my gosh, I remember now. It happened completely differently. So my mind is playing tricks on me, right? And that's how everybody's mind works, actually. Then confabulation. This is when someone unintentionally fills in the gaps in their memories with made up or misrepresented information, often without even knowing that they're doing it. They're believing it. That's the issue here. It's often seen in brain injuries and neurological conditions, but it does happen in an everyday life as well. Reconstructive memory. Our brains rebuild memories every time we think of them. This is what I was just talking about, a similar thing. Over time, we may unintentionally change the details. This can be influenced by emotions, new information, social pressure, or personal beliefs. This just means our memory is not a video recording. It's malleable and shaped by many factors. Trauma-related memory changes, of course. When a person has experienced trauma, memories can be fragmented, distorted, or even suppressed. Again, those childhood memories are very often suppressed. The brain may change the order of events or lose details. And in this case, this is not lying. This is a protective survival mechanism. And cognitive dissonance. When someone misremembers the events, that reduces their own internal conflict. It can be a subconscious way to protect their self-image or emotional state. So as you can see, there are plenty of psychological reasons why people may be remembering things differently. So there's one thing, if we can go back to Russell Brand, at the situation I was discussing about the hotel room, I believe that was with a minor, which is a totally different situation and is already wrong just because it was a minor. But for the purpose of discussing this, just thinking a Russell Brand and a lady hotel room and something happens, if there was a camera there, and all of it was recorded, and we had this evidence, and we were like, oh, okay, we see this like in Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively's case. Oh my gosh, I made so many videos about it. You can check them out here. I mean, of course, there may have been many more moments, but the specific moment when they were recording a scene dancing, that video evidence, and Blake was saying that he was inappropriate, and he was saying no, and then everybody watched the video, were like, isn't this acting? So that was interesting. This kind of situation. So if there was a video of Russell Brand doing something to a person, we watched the video, we're like, okay, this is this, and this is the truth, because here is him doing this to her. Even then, I'm pretty sure if 100% watched the same video, still they would have a different perception of it. But at least like we could judge by the actions on the screen, and then like, okay, this happened. But most of the times, and I'm sure in this case, there won't be any video, right? There won't be any evidence even. And then how do they judge it? I'm like, how do they do it in court even? This person saying this happened. This person saying this happened. Both of them can be influenced by, let's take away the scenario when one of them or both of them are consciously lying, right? And let's just say that they just have their own truths, and those are different truths. So he's saying this and he believes this. She's saying the other thing and she also believes it. But who can go into their like psyche, dig out and find what actually happened? If they believe it happened, it doesn't mean it happens. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, it's just very difficult and very interesting to discuss. Because specifically in the context of RAPE, even if the lady came to Russell Brand to meet up with him, and he thought she knew what she's there for. Maybe she also knew, so in his mind it was consensual. In her mind she was like, let's see what happens. And then something happens and she's saying like, no, stop. Then that's where the consent ends, right? But if she wasn't, then how do you even determine that? Could he have misunderstood her? So there's like layers of how this kind of thing could have gone wrong. And again, I just want to mention it again. No victim blaming whatsoever. Real victims should be protected, absolutely. And real abusers should be punished. And that's how justice system works, right? It will be really interesting to see what new evidence comes out. And for me personally, even it's interesting what I'll be saying and thinking about it when there's more information. But right now, I'm like on the fence. I don't know, because it's really difficult, right? We know how Russell Brand behaved. We've seen it on those multiple shows. He's been promiscuous, and we know all that.
I hear you're a very traditional guy, that you all those critters.
If by traditional you mean sex mad, then yeah.
He's claiming it was all consensual, but was it? Maybe not, maybe yes. Let's just wait and see. But guys, please, you can see I'm struggling here with my thoughts about it. So please share your thoughts about it in the comments. I would love to discuss it with you. And I truly hope this will be fairly resolved, and that all the victims are protected, and that there will be in the future, that would be my dream, no victims of SA or RAPE, and that the world just becomes a better place, a safer place for us and our children. It's sad. Oh my God. Honestly, it just makes me so sad. I guess this is like my moment of childish behavior in this very moment, because I'm like, became little, and I'm like, why is the world this way? Whew, returning back to a grown-up state. It is what it is. This is the world we live in, and we just have to try to be good people, make the right choices, don't hurt others, and be kind. I sound like Ellen. Be kind to one another. What a nice phrase, and what a terrible end to that show. But that's a discussion for another day, I guess. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
moi.